Hello everybody, this is Mr. Rob and welcome to the very first episode of the Washington Commanders franchise here on Madden NFL 24. It's Madden season, and it's time to kick off a new franchise here on the channel. The first Madden franchise really in about 2 years. So if you're excited for this and this series, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more franchise content. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome as well as we get ready to kick off another season. This year we'll be taking on the Washington Commanders. If you watched the team reveal a couple weeks ago, you are already aware of this, but Commanders are not a very good team. There's a lot going on in this franchise. New ownership, young players, uncertainty at the quarterback position, and that makes the Commanders, I feel like, a great choice. So today we're going to kind of go through the team, set up the franchise, see what you guys will expect in the future, as well as I'm going to show you guys something I've been working on the past couple days that I'm going to debut in this series to kind of make it more immersive, more what you see on TV. Because if you're new to the channel, I like to try to make my franchises as realistic as possible. I stick to realism. We're not going to go out and trade for Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes for a season. We're going to build this team organically like you see in real life, and I want to emulate what you see on TV and what you read about in the news here in this series. So let's not waste any more time. We're going to take on the Washington Commanders, 79 overall, 76 on offense, 84 on defense. There's a lot of work that has to do with this team. We're going to be taking on the role of owner, and I'm not really going to make any fun owner. I'm just going to go with the guy that recently bought it or who headed the process in Josh Harris. So first name Josh, last name Harris, and we'll accept. And we're going to make our starting point the regular season. We're going to skip preseason here in year one. We're going to do preseason in future seasons, but I kind of just want to get to the gameplay, get to that first season so we can get on building this process. As far as league settings are going to go, something new, I'm actually going to play on All-Madden now. I've used All-Pro in the past. I know some people realize that All-Madden's cheesy, but I want to start doing my series on the hardest difficulty possible. There's going to be growing pains at first. This is not a good team, I get that, but it's going to make the satisfaction of winning so much more enjoyable. So we're going to do All Madden. We're going to do 15-minute quarters, accelerated clock. I'll probably narrow this stuff later. I will be using sliders for my series as well. I always put the sliders that I use in the description of my videos. I usually get them off Operation Sports. But obviously the game just came out, so we're not going to have sliders at first, but just keep in the comments section or look in the description if you want to see what I end up using. So I think all that is necessary. I'm just going to manual everything, reader depth chart, manual, practice reps, manual, auto progress players. We'll turn that off, tutorial pop-ups off. Everything I want to have control over as we go through all of this stuff. Now, one thing also, it says prospect storylines, a draft timer for drafts. I will be using real classes, so the players that you see in the NCAA will make their way into this series for seasons to come, as we'll just do everything else. I'll look into more of this stuff again as the season goes on, as the franchise goes on. But let's go ahead and get into the actual save file. All right, so here we are, simulated to week one. We're going to play host to the Arizona Cardinals to begin our season, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. But first, let's meet our Washington Commanders and see who is on this roster, get familiar with the players. As you can see at the top of our roster, there is Jonathan Allen and Terry McLaurin, but after those two, it's a pretty steep drop-off in talent. So we'll just go position by position, introduce you to the players, starting obviously with the quarterback position, where there is a lot of uncertainty here going into the season. The starting quarterback is going to be Jacoby Brissett, the former Cleveland Brown, who signed a one-year, $10 million contract in the offseason to come over to Washington. Brissett obviously has a lot of history starting in the National Football League, but at this point in his career, he's really nothing more than just a bridge kind of guy. He's still, as the analysis says, a starting quarterback number 29 in the league, but he's pretty decent across the board, but he's not going to wow you with anything. So Brissett will start this season, but right behind him, you can't rule out, is the second-year man out of North Carolina, Sam Howell, who is still up for debate. Is this guy the future quarterback of this team? And he's only in his second year in the NFL. He's not really played a whole lot, so the jury is still out, and that's something that we're going to find out in this series. Is Sam Howell the signal caller to take us into the future, or is it somebody who's not on the roster? Behind him also we have Jake Fromm. At the halfback position, the top guy is Brian Robinson Jr., the second-year man out of Alabama, who had a very solid rookie campaign. As you can see, he does have star development. He rushed for 797 yards. More of that power back type mold. He's just going to straight run you over with 89 trucking, 80 stiff arm, 82 strength. He's only got 88 speed, so he's not going to kill you with the agility. That's kind of up to the guy that sits behind him, Antonio Gibson, which, if you remember in my Madden 21 franchise, I did do a Washington football team relocation to Toronto Thunderbirds franchise, and this guy ended up just destroying the league. Antonio Gibson was an absolute weapon. I don't think we'll see that again in here, but I think he's a great change of pace back. He can also handle kick return duties as well, as you can see down there with his 81 kick return, which will probably be where he does most of his impact. But him and Robinson will be the 1- and 2-headed monster. Robinson handling more of the short yardage up the middle situations, while more on passing downs and whatnot. You're going to see Antonio Gibson really shine. There's also Jarrett Patterson, the former Buffalo Bull that I was a big fan of coming out of college, and then Chris Rodriguez Jr., the rookie out of Kentucky. Fullback, there is Alex Arma Jr. I'm not really going to use a fullback. He probably won't make it very far on this team, but Ron Rivera, being a former Carolina Panthers head coach, has a lot of former guys on that team coming over. Alex Arma is one of them. At wide receiver, the top guy, which is our best offensive player, Scary Terry McLaurin, who you can see is already due for 2 upgrade points, and is our superstar X Factor. Our offense, especially this season, which is not very good, and being on All-Madden, is going to flow through this man. We're going to try to get him as many touches as possible. He's our best offensive player. Went to the Pro Bowl a season ago. Had a career-high 1,191 receiving yards. He's a top 10 wide receiver in the league, and getting him as many touches as possible is just what's going to do best for our team. He's phenomenal after the catch as well, so he can go deep, he can hit those middle routes, make the contested catch, he can go for yards after the catch. I mean, Terry McLaurin can do it all, and if we don't utilize him, this offense is in a lot of trouble. Because after him, we do have Curtis Samuel, who's a decent second wide receiver at 27 years old, but I don't think he's ever really reached that ceiling that a lot of people had for him coming out of college. He played at Ohio State. He was very dynamic over there, former Carolina Panther, and he's got great traits, but I think we're still waiting on Curtis Samuel to really put it all together. Now, I think one thing we're going to do in this series is try to maximize his strengths. Kind of like McLaurin, he's great after the catch. He played a lot of halfback in college, and I think maybe getting Curtis Samuel into some of those specialty packages where he is in the backfield, maybe coming out for a pass or a wide receiver reverse or something like that, is really going to maximize him. So I think getting Curtis Samuel to really unlock that next level is one of the keys to this offense. Because, if it's just Terry McLaurin, a lot of teams are going to key in on that. So we got to get Curtis Samuel going. Third wide receiver is Jahan Doxson, our last year's first-round pick out of Penn State. He had a pretty decent first year in the league, 31 catches, 523 yards, and 7 touchdowns. He's another guy that we can still grow and develop. He's got that good speed. He's got a lot of good attributes, kind of like Curtis Samuel like we just saw. But obviously Dotson's second year in the league, he's still just got to take the next step. So we have a lot of good wide receiver talent. We just got to maximize all of it. There's also De'Ami Brown and Dax Mill to take a look at. At the tight end position, we're a little weak on this spot. Our top tight end is Logan Thomas, the former Virginia Tech quarterback, who's now 32 years old. He's good at catching, but nothing really else. He's not going to light the world on fire. So maybe this is something we need to take a look at in the future, as he's more of a receiver. He's not going to do any blocking. We're not going to expect to get another lineman in his space on those stretch runs. So Logan Thomas also getting older. There is John Bates behind him, as well as Cole Turner and Armani Rogers, but there's a lot of going to the offensive line. This is, I think, where this offense is really going to struggle. Now, the left tackle spots, you might not realize it, because Charles Leno is a very good left tackle, 31 years old, 82 overall. I mean, he's a top 20 left tackle in the league. He's very good at pass blocking as well, which is what we need for our blind side, especially with a little bit of uncertainty at the quarterback position. Charles Leno is going to be a guy that we can at least lean on, a veteran, maybe only on the team for a season, but Charles Leno is the anchor of our offensive line. Cornelius Lucas III is behind him. Then we get inside where there is a lot of depth issues. At left guard, there's Sadiq Charles, who only played in 4 games last year at right guard. He's now being asked to take over at the left guard spot. And, well, there's a lot to be desired here. 66 overall, 85 strength, only 85 lean blocking, more of a pulling kind of guard. And that doesn't stop at just left tackle. There's also Keaton Sutherland behind him. But at center, we have Nick Gates, who is also only in the 60s in terms of overall. Former New York Giant also signed a 3-year contract in the offseason. So he's here for the long haul. And, well, he's got 70s across the board. He's not really considered a starting center. So if we can't contain that pressure up the middle, we might be in a little bit of trouble. So we need guys like Nick Gates to really step up and be deserving of that 3-year contract that he did sign. Now, he also has some competition behind him. There's also Ricky Stromberg, our 3rd-round rookie out of Arkansas. He might be the future of our center position. He's got hidden development, which is always nice to see, but I don't think he's really ready yet. There's going to be a lot of growing pains for him, especially as a rookie, with a lot of those D tackles up the middle probably going to overwhelm Stromberg. And, you know, being a center, you need your center to be that guy to lead the offensive line. He's only got 72 awareness. We're going to have to work on that, but maybe it's Ricky Stromberg who can anchor that offensive line, but for now, there's still some issues up the middle. Right guard, Braden Daniels, 4th-round pick out of Utah this year. He's a rookie that's going to be thrown right into the fire. Another guy who's not considered a starting caliber offensive lineman. So, as you can see, a lot of issues up the middle that we're going to have to address early on. Behind him in terms of depth, there's Chris Paul, not the Chris Paul that still hasn't got a ring in the NBA. At right tackle, kind of like left tackle, it's more of our solidified spots. So our anchors on the tackle spots are a lot better than our inside spot. At right tackle, there is Sam Cosmi, who is still very young, and he's a pretty solid right tackle in his own right, and he still has a lot of chances to improve. Now, Leno is more of the pass-blocking left tackle, while Sam Crosby is more of a run-blocking specialist, which is what you like to see. You want your blindside guy, your left tackle, to be better at pass blocking, and then your right tackle be your better run blocker. And I think we do have that. So we have a solid core on the outside. We just need to work on that inside. There's also Andrew Wiley, who is probably going to be the 3rd tackle if we need one. He's a former Chief. Signed a big 3-year, $24 million contract in the offseason. I do think that maybe it's a little bit of an overpay, but he's a solid tackle. If Leno or Cosme do go down, there is Andrew Wiley there as well. On the defense, this is the strength of the team, not just on the defense, but specifically the defensive line. At left end, there is Chase Young, our superstar, 24 years old, had an incredible rookie season, but ever since then has really not done much. He only played in 3 games last year, and he's only played in 12 in the past 2 seasons. In those 3 games last year, he only had a sack and a half, which is a little bit disappointing because Washington also declined his player option this offseason. So he is a free agent after this year. So this is a big season for Chase Young. You know the potential is there. He's listed as a number 3 ranked left in. He can get to the passer. He's very fast. He's very capable in the run game. We just need Chase Young to just put together what we saw that rookie season. And if he does, it's going to help our team. And it's going to help him a lot because Chase Young will be due for a massive payday. So it's going to be a storyline to watch in the offseason and the season coming up. James Smith-Williams is behind him. He's a pretty good depth guy. Casey Toohill as well from Stanford. On the other spots, there's Montez Sweat, who is probably the weak link of the defensive line. And I mean, I don't want to say weak link because Montez Sweat is still a great player, and that shows you how good this defensive line is. He's very good at rushing the passer. He's a very good block shedder. He's got probably more speed than Chase Young. He's kind of the unsung hero of the defensive line. Obviously, guys like Chase Young and Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne, they get all the stars, but Montez Sweat is a very capable player who can come off the other edge. Behind him, you got Efe Obada, who is the first player, if you didn't know, to ever go straight from the European football to the NFL. So he's a very good story who adds a little bit of depth. Then you got KJ Henry, the rookie out of Clemson, and then Shaka Toney as well. Interior, Jonathan Allen, arguably the best defensive player on this team. Chase Young has a very high potential, but Jonathan Allen has a high potential, and he's reached his potential. Superstar X Factor. He eats up the middle, 93 strength, 84 run blocking, 95 play rec and awareness, 93 power moves, 76 finesse. This guy is the real deal. He was a Pro Bowler last season. It's not hard to wonder why. And then he's not the only good defensive tackle. Right behind him, Daron Payne, a Pro Bowler as well last year. Signed a 4-year, $90 million extension in the offseason, coming off a career-high 11.5 sacks. So we got Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen, and Daron Payne. On defense, we need to get after the quarterback. We need to get these 4 guys get a lot of pressure because the backside is not as talented as the front side. As far as depth-wise as a defensive tackle, there's Phidarian Matthias, the second-year man out of Alabama, who is also pretty talented. He's more of just a strong kind of guy who's a little bit raw. But in case one of the defensive tackles gets hurt, I think Matthias can step up. John Ridgway is also listed as a defensive tackle. At the linebacker spot, is definitely not as talented as the defensive line. At left outside linebacker, there's David Mayo, another guy who's a part of the Ron Rivera defense at Carolina, who's come over. 68 overall, very poor in zone coverage. He's just kind of good at going from sideline to sideline, but not very good at getting off blocks. There's not much really there in terms of his ability, in my opinion. At middle linebacker, Cody Barton is anchoring that spot, the former Seattle Seahawk, who is 85 speed. He's got good tackling, but kind of like David Mayo, just a little bit better in my opinion. He's a fringe starting middle linebacker, but with only 62 zone coverage, that's going to be a real liability, especially against a lot of good tight ends and just covering over the middle, which is where I think we're really going to be weak at this season. Dejon Harris is behind him. At right outside linebacker, there is Yamin Davis. Shadow is his nickname, and he's probably the most talented linebacker that we have. He's very young. He's a former first-round pick out of Kentucky, and he has the best zone coverage. He has the best speed. He's the more put-together linebacker. He's going to be our 3-down linebacker. I don't necessarily think he's an amazing 3-down linebacker yet, but with the depth issues that we have at this level of the defense, Yamin Davis is really going to be the guy that we need to look for, and hopefully he can continue to progress. So he's only 24 years old. He has a very high ceiling. We just need to get Yamin Davis to that point. Felike Hudson is behind him. And then we go into the secondary, which is anchored by Kendall Fuller. He is our number 1 corner, a very talented individual. 87 man, 90 zone, 91 play rec. We need him to anchor, shut down number 1 receivers. He is also a free agent after this season, so you know Kendall Fuller is going to be playing for that payday. And we hope that we can cash in, and he can as well, and help our defense. The number 2 corner on the other side is Emmanuel Forbes, who is number 16 overall pick this past draft out of Mississippi State. And he is a rookie corner. I think he's a very talented rookie corner, but rookie corners in the NFL can sometimes have a very hard time. You know, this is a lot different game than what you played in college. Yes, Emmanuel Forbes did play in the SEC West, which is a very talented division, but these are the best of the best. This is the NFL. And he's got 75 coverage in both man and zone, which is a very good starting point for a rookie. So he'll have his chance to progress. If there's some growing pains as a rookie, I understand that. But Emmanuel Forbes is talented. He could potentially overseat Kendall Fuller's number 1, especially if Fuller leaves in free agency. But hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully we can just have Fuller and Forbes be our 1-2 corners. Behind him, you got Benjamin St. Juste, who's going to be the nickel corner. He's pretty decent. He's more of a zone corner than a man, but I think he's a solid nickel guy to count on. And then there's also, for depth purposes, Danny Johnson and Tariq Castro-Fields. At free safety, Derek Forrest is the top guy there. He had 4 interceptions last season, 88 tackles, and only 11 games he started. So he didn't start the whole season, but he put together a pretty solid campaign. He's more of a box kind of safety. I think he actually fits more as a strong safety, but he can cover a little bit with 74 zone, 73 man. But that 86 hit power stands out. He's got 91 speed. He's got good pursuit. I think he's more of a run-stopping free safety without maybe looking at that 56 block shed. But Derek Forrest, I think a very capable center fielder as well. Jartavis Martin is behind him. He's a second-round pick out of Illinois. And then we have Percy Butler on the roster. A strong safety, Cameron Curl. I'm a big fan of him. I did like him coming out of college. 83 overall and only 24 years of age. He's a little bit better in coverage than Derek Forrest, but he's not as fast as Forrest. I almost think him and Forrest could switch roles. I think Cameron Curl is probably the better free safety, and Derek Forrest is probably the better strong safety, but nonetheless, it doesn't really matter as much in the NFL because you kind of need your safeties to be able to do both spots. Jamie Reeves is the backup. And as far as kicker, there's Joey Sly, And then at punter, we have the Pro Bowler in Tress Way. As far as practice squad, here's the guys that we have on our practice squad to begin the season. But that is the Washington Commanders. That is the team that we're going to get to know and our starting point going into the season. Our first game will be against the Arizona Cardinals, so we'll take a quick look at some of their key guys. Obviously, Arizona is not the best team in the league, which is a very good team for me to start off against, especially being on All-Madden. Here's a look at the top of their roster. They're obviously anchored by strong safety Buda Baker, who is, remember, demanding a trade. So that'll be an interesting storyline to watch develop in our franchise. And then obviously at quarterback, they're still anchored by Kyler Murray, who we're still waiting to see if he takes that next step. He's listed as an 80 overall star dev in this game. Going to have to contain him, fluster him in the pocket, but he can extend with his legs. So a very dynamic guy to start off against our season. But that's a little bit of a preview for week 1. But before we end this episode, I do have something I want to show you. It's something I've been working on that I think will immerse ourselves with this franchise a little bit more. So without further ado, here's something I've been working on. So here's a look at a scoreboard that I have created that will debut in this series. As you can see, this takes a lot of inspiration from what Fox does with their National Football League scoreboard, and that's kind of what I want to do with this series to get you guys more immersed, is to kind of highlight some of the other games going on around the National Football League. Now, I've done this in past series where we just take a look at their stats and scoreboards, but I think having something like this just adds that more real feel to it. And I'm excited to bring that to you guys because, yes, we're doing the Commanders, but I want you guys to feel more immersed. I want to try to better my content in any way I can. I think this will add a big step. So we're obviously going to do our game in normal format, but this scoreboard will be reserved for games in the week that are on the primetime games. Now, usually NFL, they'll have a Fox game of the week. You know, there's a CBS game, there's a Sunday Night Football game, and there's a Monday Night Football game. So that's 4 games that are in the primetime slots, not including Thursdays. Thursday Night Football, in my opinion, is not very good. So we can do the scoreboard for the games of the week that we're not participating in. Now, we are in the NFC, so a lot of the times we will take up that Fox slot. But, you know, I'll have a scoreboard for CBS. I'll have a scoreboard for Monday Night Football on ESPN. I'll have one for NBC on Sunday nights. It's going to be the same format, but I'm going to change up a couple of things. You won't see the Fox in the corner. It might be a different color. So I just feel like that'll add more immersive to this, and I hope you guys are excited for this because I really am. So that'll do it. I hope you guys enjoyed that little scoreboard, as I am super stoked to be starting off this series for you guys. If you would, please drop a like and subscribe down below to support the series. Get it out there. I want to pump this series out. I want this to be the best franchise that I've done on the channel because I haven't done a football franchise really in 2 years because the Broncos ended us so shortly. So game 1, week 1 will actually be tomorrow. We'll be doing the Cardinals game here on the channel. I'll probably record it tonight, edit it tomorrow. So expect that tomorrow evening. But I can't wait to get this started for you guys. This is Mr. Rob, and I'll see you in the next one.